Hi there. Welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today's yoga class is all about your stance, your posture. I want you to think posture correction, posture enhancement, and posture strengthening. Once you've found a particular pose on the mat, look at trying to strengthen your posture within that frame by holding good form for at least 20 to maybe 30 seconds. Make sure your spine is nice and tall. Make sure that your whole core is working. Strong back, strong abs. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify where you need to, rest if and when you need to. You might want to have one block handy today when we're coming into some supported frames. All right, let's hit the mat. We're going to set up for today's class standing up nice and tall. You can set yourself up more or less in the middle of the mat. I want you to find a comfortable parallel stance with all 10 toes looking to the front of the mat. Start rooting through your feet and just try to find a sense of length through the body. Think of your spine as being the pinnacle of your frame. Gently rock the weight forward into your toes, but keep the whole foot connected to the mat. So just a slight lean forward. Then lean your weight back so that all of the weight is in your heels, but all 10 toes are on the mat. You're going to gently rock your body weight forwards and backwards. And then think of trying to even out the weight distribution on the front and on the back of your feet, and come to stillness somewhere between the two with a beautiful long spine, almost as if you were a marionette and somebody was pulling your whole crown, your whole spine up to the sky. Keeping that sense of length through the spine, you're going to focus on your two hip bones. You're going to bump your left hip out, come back to center, bump to the right. You're going to bump side to side, starting to notice what's happening within your pelvis. Remember that your pelvis is almost the floor of your core, holding everything nice and stable. You're going to start thinking about converging in towards the center line. So making that bump tighter and tighter until it feels that not only is your weight distribution even on the front and the back of your feet, but also on the two sides of your feet, and your body is beautifully aligned. Now start noticing your shoulders. Give me a drop down on the left and then on the right. Just giving me an alternating drop down on each side. And then start converging that drop down in tighter and tighter towards the center line. Think of Lady Liberty and the two scales that she's holding in her hands. And I want you to find an evenness on the left and the right side of your body, so that you're rooting through the feet, even through the pelvis, even through the shoulders. Remember this sense of evenness, this sense of almost trying to have your weight distribution on both sides of the body, even on both sides of the spine, nice and even. Take a big breath in here, and then just give a supported back bend, placing both hands into your lower back, either fingertips down or fingertips looking up to the sky if you prefer, bumping your hips softly forward, holding here, getting a little stretch into the spine, and then coming to a tabletop line from here, dropping the arms long and heavy to the floor as you float into a tabletop line and try to hold that line. Pretend that you've got a teacup, a full teacup in its saucer balancing on your back, and you're trying to keep it even without any spillage into the saucer. Inhale to come back. Let's just take a back bend again. Maybe doing that twice more just to limber up through the spine. We'll hold the last one. Moving with your breath. And then holding your last tabletop line. As you come into the tabletop line, do a couple of checks. Check that your weight distribution is equal on the forefront and the back of your feet. Try to have the legs as long as you can and have your spine as long as you can. Think of that teacup, so you've got strong back, and make sure that your core is braced nice and strong. So So belly working, back working, whole core engaged. Hold that line. Then keeping that sense of length through the spine, begin dynamically bending and extending through the legs. You can either stay here in your tabletop line, or you can start transitioning from your tabletop line into a full forward fold, Uttanasana, by systematically beginning to drop your fingertips closer and closer to the floor. You could place a fingertip block underneath your fingertips if you need to, coming into a full forward fold. Maybe pushing off your hands or coming into a big toe lock by taking your middle index finger and thumb, grasping around the big toe of each foot, and then softening through your elbow points as you think of not only lengthening the back of your legs, but also trying to lengthen through your spine. Make sure your back muscles are working. Make sure your abs are working. So pull your belly button softly into center as you find the forward fold. Remember this forward fold because we're going to use it at the end of the class when we come into a little bit of preparation work for a toe stand. Give me a few gentle breaths here. Then you're going to think of transitioning from here, when you're ready, into a down dog. Place your hands gently on the mat, fingertips looking towards the front of the mat. Soften the knees and bend them if you need to. And then step your legs back so that you can come into a full down dog position. If you're really tight on the back chain, maybe give me a slow pedal, bending one leg, extending the other. Focus on your extended leg. Try to ground through that whole foot as best you can so that you start feeling that stretch up the legs. When you're ready, you're going to hold your full down dog expression, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Try to forge an almost triangular frame between the arms and the legs. Try to anchor down as best you can through both heels. And think of giving me a long line from your tailbone towards the nape of your neck. Almost feeding your head through your hands as if you wanted to tap your nose to your knees. Pause here for a bit. Make sure you've got a long spine. Make sure your back muscles are working. Make sure that your abs are working. Pull your belly button softly into center, almost as if you were trying to fuse your belly button to your spine. Pause here in your down dog frame. Then ease your way from your down dog into a child. Relax onto your knees. Release the shins and the feet. You can keep your legs in parallel and just softly extend the arms on the mat in front of you, trying to lengthen through the spine as best you can. Maybe softly clawing with your fingertips, but bringing your wrists and your palms off the mat. Look for a sense of length through the spine. We're going to find our way from here. We're going to caterpillar down onto the belly. Think of keeping your arms long and lengthened on the mat and looking off the front of the mat. Grip with your fingertips, bend through your elbows, drag your weight forward to gently arrive on your belly on the mat. As you arrive on the mat, we're going to bring it into a cobra line. Hands are relaxed on the mat. Maybe your fingertips are just in front of your shoulder line. Your legs are soft and relaxed and parallel behind you. And you're watching what you're doing with your elbows the whole time. So try not to flare those elbows out to the side of the room. Try to hug them in. Relax your forehead to the mat. We'll come up into a little Cobra Articulation. Bhujangasana. Pretend you've got a small little marble underneath your nose. You're going to roll that marble towards the front of the mat as you start uncurling your head and starting to peel your ribs and your spine off the mat. Come up really slowly. One rib, one vertebra at a time. Looking for length through the spine and just stop in a baby cobra line. So bottom ribs still connected to the mat. You're not collapsing and your shoulders are not hugging your ears. You're dropping your shoulders away from your ears. Look for that sense of evenness that we played in the beginning of the class. So the shoulders are even on both sides of the spine. Stay here, or maybe start to push up, coming up a little bit higher. Maybe you'd like to come into full extension. If you are coming into full extension, make sure that you're not hanging on the collarbone. So drop the shoulders away from the ears. Look for a sense of really making your spine and your whole core work. So your back is working. You're almost thinking of shrink wrapping cellophane around your trunk, and you've got the longest trunk that you can comfortably manage. Bleed gently back down to the mat. And as you arrive on the mat, sweep the arms behind you. Bleed onto one cheek and just bleed all of the tension into the mat. Give yourself a little time out here. Inhale, bring your nose back to center. And then exhale to drop down on the other cheek. Relax into the mat for a second or two. Then come back to your neutral line with your forehead connected to the mat. And think long spine. So you're almost thinking of trying to lengthen through your toes, lengthen through your fingertips as if you were reaching your fingertips for the edge of the mat, and at the same time lengthening through the crown of your head. We're going to come into a full locust from here. Think of floating both legs off the mat so that it feels like you're hanging on your hip bones. Then give me a chest lift. Think of that cobra, start rolling that marble away. Find your baby cobra line. Keep the leg and the chest lift, and now give me an arm lift, hovering the arms alongside your body and hold the full expression of locust, almost making a bow-like frame with your body. Thinking long spine, long neck. Don't throw your head back. Just look gently off the front of the mat so that your neckline is in a neutral position. Try to extend as much as you can through your fingertips, through your toes, through your crown as you hold your locust line. Salambasana. Look for that strength through your spine. Then gently bleed back down to the mat, reconnecting your forehead, thinking length through the spine as you take a recovery breath or two. Then bend your elbows and place your palms alongside your chest. Keep your legs relaxed and parallel. We're going to push back into child, either electing to stay here or finding a little bit of extra work here. Find your way from extended child, Tadasana, to plank. Palakasana. Drag your weight forward, tuck your toes under, come through 4-point kneeling. Find a long line through the spine. Make sure you're not collapsing through. So body line is parallel to the mat as you can. Back is working, abs are working. You've braced your whole core. Then with control through the core, so control through the spine and your abs, you're going to start softening your belly to the floor, and you're going to come to a modified up dog, dropping your shoulders away from your ears, getting a little bit more curve in the spine. Pause. Look for strength. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, up dog. Transition from here into a down dog by piking your bum up to the ceiling, strong through the core as you transition. Pike your bum up to the ceiling, maybe sliding your feet in slightly, trying to get more drop down through the heels. Look for that beautiful long line through the arms, through the legs. Drop as much weight down as you can and hold. Give yourself a couple of moments here. In Adho Mukha Svanasana, try to forge the longest line through your spine, tailbone to crown. back muscles working, abs working, so your whole core is braced and working to support your frame. You're going to think about how you're going to find your way from here into a seated frame at the top end of your mat. Maybe easing your way from your down dog into a relaxed dog by coming onto the tips of your fingers, bending your knees, maybe taking a little hop up and through. Maybe you want to place your hands on the mat today as you take your seat. Extend the legs long and lengthened in front of you and sit up as tall as you can in staff pose, Tadasana. Make sure that you're not rounding out and hanging off your tailbone. Use your hands to lift your bum cheeks off the mat. Sit up nice and tall so that you're grounding. You're getting that same sense of grounding through your bum bones as you were getting right at the beginning of the class when we were standing in mountain Tadasana. So your bum bones are rooting you to the mat. You're sitting up nice and tall. Legs are in parallel. Think of your standing pose in your first mountain. Feet are actively braced. Maybe hands are at your side and you're pushing off your fingertips, trying to keep your shoulders aligned over your hips, and then start to draw the energy up from your kneecaps along your quads. Pull up from the pelvic floor towards your belly button line and see if you can float your heels off the mat. Keeping those feet braced and active, inner thighs working. If you're comfortable here and your core is nice and strong and your back is working and your posture is nice and tall, you can lengthen those arms in front of you and try to hold staff pose Tadasana for a few more soft counts, looking for that length, that strength through your whole core. Spine nice and tall, back working, abs working. Hold. Such a simple pose, but absolutely amazing for postural awareness and strength. Let's hold for a few more seconds here. For our next pose, we're going to be coming to a supported fish, Matsuyasana. So I would suggest that you have a block or maybe a scatter cushion or two handy for the next one. Bring yourself softly down and just give your legs a gentle shake up. Reach for a block. Preferably, you could use a soft foam one or you could use a cork one if you have. And then you're going to ascertain how much support you need for your fish. I would suggest you use the flatter side first, and if that's not enough, then you could give yourself some higher support with your fish. Place the block more or less where your lower back is going to need support. Your lower and your mid back is going to need support in your fish. Walk your way down onto your elbows. Readjust the block underneath you if you need to. You're going to think of trying to wrap your back around your block as you softly drop the crown of your head to the floor. If you find that you've got too much arch in your back and this is not enough support, then you're going to work with a higher frame coming up. As you wrap around your block, I want you to think of trying to get your crown, not the back of your head, your crown to the floor. So maybe the block is enough for you and that's supporting your frame for you. Keep your feet active. Maybe you'd like to keep the forearms softly alongside you, or maybe you'd like to take your hands overhead, maybe bringing them together in a prayer-like position and crossing your thumbs, relaxing those hands overhead to the floor behind you. Settle in and hold for a few soft counts. Remember that when we're talking in terms of strength through the spine, it's not only about having a ramrod straight spine all the time, but having a certain amount of controllable flexibility through your spine. Back bends and forward folds also very important in strengthening that spine. Breathe as deeply as you can into the front and the side of your ribs. Make sure your back is strong. Make sure your core is strong. So that block underneath your mid-back, helping to support the frame so that you can lessen the amount of pressure that you're putting on the crown of your head when you're in the full expression. Matsuyasana, fish pose. When you're ready to come out of your fish, if you do have your hands overhead, maybe gently bring them to prayer in front for a second. Then relax back onto the forearms. Push off your forearms and your palms and try to bring your head up, looking down towards your feet. Walk your hands up. Slip the block out. We're going to use the block as we come into a counterbalance, Paschimottanasana. Take a big breath in. Sitting up nice and tall in that Tadasana, that staff pose. Float your block overhead. So it almost feels like you're framing your ears on either side with your arms. You're going to fold forward and you're going to try to hook the block around your feet, pulling the block in as you relax your body. Think chest to the top of your thighs. If this hook is not happening for you today, maybe take your block, place it between the two calves or between the two ankles, depending on how tall you are, and just find a comfortable stack position that you can hold. If you're not working with a block today and you can't reach the undercarriage of your feet, maybe take a strap or a towel and just feed it around your feet, finding a bound Paschimottanasana forward fold, seated forward fold that you can hold. Stay here for a few. Close your eyes, take your focus in, and try to lengthen as much as you can, all the way from the base of your spine. Think of a long line that you're trying to forge from that base all the way to the nape of your neck where it bleeds into your head. Strong through the back, abs are still engaged, so you're pulling your belly button gently into center. Trying to relax those little tension spots behind the knees if you can. Keep your breathing long, soft, and relaxed. When you're ready to come out of Paschimottanasana, you're going to place your block neatly one side, and you're going to use either some spinal rolls, or you can just gently find your way onto the back. Bend your knees, connect your soles of your feet, tuck into a tight little ball. So you're almost hollowing out your belly and rounding out your spine. You're going to rock back as far as your shoulder blades and back up. Maybe staying here in your tight little ball, or if your spine is starting to limber up from the movement that we have already done on the mat today, you can maybe come into a dynamic forward fold and then a mini plow, almost thinking of trying to pull the knees in towards your nose. If you're feeling comfortable here, you could even bring it into a full plow, extending the legs both on the forward fold and on the plow movement, maybe even tapping both toes to the floor overhead. So just see where your spine wants to be. A limber spine enables you to do so much with your posture. All right, we're going to end on the back and we'll take it into a bridge line. Bend your knees, connect the soles of your feet to the mat. Make sure that your feet and your knees are hip-width distance apart, and try to keep this distance the whole time as you're playing in the bridge, almost pretending that you've got a band around the legs, keeping them in position. Begin in neutral spine with a comfortable little space between your lower back and the mat. Then tilt your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position so that it feels like your lower and your mid-back is starting to imprint into the mat. Lead with the tailbone. Keep your chin nice and soft and keep curling the tailbone in as you start to lift your bottom and then your vertebra one at a time off the mat, starting to pike your hips up towards the ceiling. And then hold your bridge line. When you get to the apex of your bridge, try to lengthen through your spine. Make sure you're using your support of your glutes, your hamstrings, your quads. Either staying here or bending your elbows and then taking the little L shape between your index finger and your thumb and tucking that underneath your waist on either side so that you can support your bridge. We're going to hold the bridge for a couple of gentle counts here. Try not to look to the side of the room when you're in your bridge. Keep your chin tucked softly towards your chest. Strengthening the spine, strengthening the back, keeping our core engaged. Exercising all those support muscles that we need for a beautiful, long, strong posture. Keep reaching along through your kneecaps as if you were trying to hook them over the edge of the mat. Watch that you're not V'ing the legs out or in. So imagine you've got an elastic band wrapped around your knees and it's keeping your legs at a consistent hip width distance apart. Setu Bandha, bridge pose. When you're ready to come out of your bridge, if you do have that little basket underneath your waist, drop the arms one at a time. Open up the little knots between the two shoulder blades and just bring yourself gently down one vertebra at a time, easing your way back into neutral spine. Then tuck into a little ball on the mat, hugging your knees in towards the chest, thinking of trying to tap nose to knee, almost hollowing out your belly and rounding out your back and just holding. We're going to rock up from here into a boat hold, holding behind your thighs or on your shins. You're going to rock up, trying to hover your legs in a tabletop line with the weight tipped just off your tailbone. Try to lengthen through your spine. You can either brace behind your thighs or maybe fingertips on the mat. If you're feeling strong here, maybe you'd like to float the arms alongside your legs as you come into boat, Navasana. Maybe you're feeling particularly strong today and you'd like to forge more of a V frame between your legs and your spine. Think long spine, back working, abs working. So you're pulling up from the pelvic floor towards your belly button line to support your boat, whether the legs are extended, whether they're bent with the arms floating, whether you're using your arms for support. Play in the Navasana, the boat of your choice. Then bend your knees and gently connect the soles of your feet to the mat, placing your hands palms down on your shins. Hug your shins in towards your chest and then give me the longest spine that you can manage, trying to forge a long line from your shoulders down through the hips. Then ease out on the hold on your shins. Exhale to round out in an almost cat-like stretch, hollowing out your belly and looking down towards your belly button. On an inhale, hug your shins and lengthen your spine. Pretend that you're a marionette and somebody's pulling your crown up to the sky. Let's play with that seated cat-cow. Exhale to round out. Ease up on the tension on the hands. Allow your elbows to float wide. Inhale to hug your shins in towards your chest and try to get a sense of lengthening through the spine. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Maybe even closing the eyes, taking your focus inward as you find a gentle seated cat-cow, a little play on Chakravartasana. Then end with the tallest spine that you can and try to hold here for a few gentle counts. Getting a sense of rooting down into the mat equally through both bum bones. So you've got that weight distribution on the left and the right side of the spine equal. Your shoulders are equally dropping away from the ears. You've got a little piece of string attached to your crown, and it's gently tugging the crown up to the sky. You're going to think about finding your way from here into a camel frame. Let go of your shins, place your fingertips on the mat, sweep the legs underneath you, and either tucking your toes under, sitting back, reaching. There are a couple of ways to come into the camel. You can play it up today. So maybe reaching for your heels and then starting to think about coming into a high kneel, so bumping your hips forward, keeping a hold of your heels as you come into a camel expression. Maybe this is too much for you and you'd like to just start by finding a high kneeling frame, maybe placing both sets of fingertips into your lower back and supporting the back bend. You can either have fingertips up or fingertips down, whichever feels the most intuitive. Or maybe once you've found your stance, reach back with one hand, bump your hips slightly back, try to connect to the other heel, and then bump your weight forward. So come into the camel bind of your choice, Ustrasana, and hold. Make your back work, make your abs work. Keep your chin line in neutral. And then when you're ready to come out of this camel back bend, you're going to take yourself into a counterbalance by thinking 4-point kneeling. For rounding out your back, you can relax your feet or you can keep them tucked under. You're going to hollow out your belly, round out your back, thinking of looking towards your navel, and try to hold this cat frame for a few gentle counts. Try to give me a nice hollow belly. On each inhale, think of almost trying to float the back of your ribs up to the sky. Then think of bleeding your way from here into a long tabletop line. Think of that teacup and that saucer that you're trying to balance on your back, and make sure your abs are braced. So think belly to spine. Make sure your back is working to almost lengthen that spine. Don't drop your head. So give me a long line through the neck and the spine. Long line all the way from your tailbone to your crown. When you're ready, you're going to find your way from here into a standing frame, and we'll do a little bit of preparation work for a toe stand. We'll stay with the preparation, so we'll keep our hands on the floor when we start coming into the fuller expression. If you're feeling good, you can go for broke and bring your hands off the floor. All right. So let's tuck the toes under. Find your way into a down dog frame. Pause here, using it as a little bit of active recovery. Find a nice stretch into the arms and the legs. Think long line through the spine. Beautiful posture. You're going to begin walking your hands back towards your legs. Soften through the knees if you need to, and ragdoll style peel up into a nice tall standing frame. Think of the first position that we played with on the mat. So standing up nice and tall, feet are in parallel, all 10 toes looking to the front of the mat, and find your modified mountain Tadasana. Rooting through the feet, dropping the fingertips towards the floor, having the weight even on the left and the right side of the body. So the hips are even, the pelvis is even, the shoulders are nice and even. Keeping this sense of length through the spine, I'd like you to try to draw the right knee up, stopping maybe in a tabletop line. You can come through the tabletop line if you like. Hold, looking for that sense of length through the spine. Bring it down, shake both legs out, or walk them up. We're going to alternate left and right as we prepare the body. All right, find your mountain, nice and tall. Think knee to nose or knee to hip. On the left, hold. If your balance is off, maybe find a focal point on the wall in front of you and keep your eye trained on that point. Every time we come back to side one, we'll add a little bit to the exercise. All right, bring it down, shake it up. Find mountain, root through your feet, find that sense of evenness on both sides of the body, nice tall stance. Think knee to nose on the right, and then reach for the right foot and tuck it into the half lotus line if you can. So bring your heel as close to the inside of the left hip bone as you can, maybe holding onto the foot with both hands or maybe just one hand. Relax the right knee down to the floor and just hold your half lotus mountain. Look for that sense of balance. Is the weight even on your whole anchoring foot? So you've got weight evenly, not only on the front and the back of your foot, but also on both sides, the left and the right side of your anchoring foot. All right, bring it down, shake it up. Let's try that on side two. Find your mountain. Think knee to nose on the left. And then start tucking into the half lotus line. Reach for your left foot. Try to tuck the left heel as close to the inside of the right hip bone as you can. Maybe holding onto the foot with both hands or just one hand. Look for that sense of grounding through your anchoring foot. Does your body weight feel equal on both sides of the spine? All right, bring it down, shake it up. Building us a puzzle. All right, come back to side one. Find your mountain. Look for that tall stance. Think knee to nose on the right, and then set up your half lotus. Once you've found the half lotus, see if you can come into a gentle forward fold from here, holding onto the foot. Maybe you're stopping in table. Maybe you can connect your fingertips to the mat. Either one set of hands and the other one holding onto your toes, or maybe both sets of hands to the floor. Then using your core, so use your back, use your abs, you're going to try to peel back up to a standing frame with as much control as you can. So don't rush it. And if you'd like to do this against a wall so that you can place your fingertips against the wall, feel comfortable to do so. Bring it up, shake it out. Let's try the same on side two. Remember, we're just doing the prep work today, and there's no pressure to go further than what your body wants to go to today. All right, find your mountain, nice and tall. Think knee to nose on the left. Find your half lotus line. And a lot of repetition in this exercise just to reinforce how to get into the pose. Oftentimes we're so busy rushing towards the end goal that we forget how to get there. All right, you're going to fold forward when you're ready. Maybe finding your tabletop line and just hanging here. Maybe connecting one or two sets of hands to the floor. Pausing here. Use your core. Use your back. Use your abs. Look for that sense of control. Shake it out. All right. Let's see if we can start coming into that toe stance, but we'll use the hands for support today. So no worries. All right. Stand up nice and tall. Find your mountain. Think knee to nose on the right. Find your half lotus line. Start folding forward when you're ready. Trying to connect both hands to the mat if you can. And then think about coming into a haunch line from here. So start peeling your heel off the mat, come onto the toes, bend your knee, and then keeping your fingertips on the mat. Just try to get a sense of evenness on the left and the right side of the body. You're going to retrace your path back when you're ready. Don't rush. Look for that sense of control through the core, maybe bracing first as you come up. No rush. Easy does it. Shake it up. Let's try that on side 2. Find your mountain, Tadasana. So a sense of almost tilting your pelvis towards the 12 o'clock position, finding that core engagement. So abs are working, back is working. Your whole girdle, your whole core is working. Think knee to nose. Find your half lotus line. When you're ready, you're going to think Uttanasana, folding forward. Maybe pausing in your table line first. Then connecting one set of fingertips and maybe the other set of fingertips to the floor. Then think haunch line. Just looking for that sense of balance. Maybe even bringing one hand off the mat. Maybe the other hand will come up and you can bring both together, but let's not worry about that today. Let's just keep both sets of hands on the mat. Bleed your way back. Use your core. Make sure your abs are working. Make sure your back is working. Bring it out. Shake it out. That's as far as we're going today. You're going to bring your hands to prayer. Center yourself. Think of where we played in the beginning of the class, rocking your weight forwards and backwards in the feet. And if you'd like to really challenge your sense of balance, you can do this with the eyes closed. A lot more challenging. Keeping the whole foot connected to the mat as you gently rock the weight back and forth. Starting not only to connect to the feet, but also to your inner thighs. So I'm thinking of squeezing the energy between the inner thighs together as if you have a yoga block between your 2 thighs. Come to stillness. And then maybe just gently start bumping your weight side to side. So that not only getting a sense of evenness through the pelvis, but also the weight distribution on the sides of your feet. Start converging into the center line. Come to stillness when it feels like the weight is equal on all 4 quarters of your foot. And you even through the pelvis, so the weight distribution is equal on the left and the right side of your hips. Then maybe starting to drop your shoulders one at a time, just a little tiny drop side to side. Think of Lady Liberty and those 2 scales that she's holding in her hands. Try to converge your drop into center so that it feels like you're even on both sides of the shoulders. You've got that root through the feet. Your weight distribution is equal in all 4 quadrants. Your inner thighs are active and squeezing in. Your hips and your pelvis are even on both sides. Your shoulders are even on both sides. Now tilt your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position so that you're finding a sense of more length through the spine. There's a soft engagement in the core, and hold your mountain steady. Close your eyes, take your focus inward. Try to hold that perfect stillness. Such a simple pose, mountain, Tadasana. But if you find that you are unfocused, it's often really difficult to hold the pose stationary with your eyes closed, coming into a beautiful tall stance. Posture totally engaged, whole body is working to support your frame. Try to give me a couple of deep breaths here. Inhaling nice and deeply all the way to the bottom of your lungs. And then as you exhale, think of the rib cage just gently squeezing into center, purging all of that stale air out of the lungs before you take a new breath in. And you can maybe begin playing with your inhalation and exhalation cycle, maybe playing at a 1-to-2 ratio. So maybe inhaling for a nice count of 4, and then trying to double up on your exhale. Make your exhale for 8, and try to think of just squeezing the whole diaphragm into center, purging all that stale air out of the lungs. Find a gentle inhalation and exhalation ratio that works for you. Just playing with 2 components of breath, puraka and rechaka, inhalation and exhalation. The whole time you're keeping your frame steady, you're standing as tall as you can, preferably with your eyes closed, challenging your sense of balance, your posture, your alignment, totally engaged and working. End of today's class by just nodding your nose towards your fingertips on the words Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed today's class. Give me a thumbs up. Make sure you shoot me your comments below and be ready for playtime on the mat tomorrow. Till then, keep it light.